What's up everybody, WaldoDude here, and today I want to bring you guys a first look at Dishonored. So I should have done this earlier. Game's already been out for a few weeks now, but here it is nonetheless. So first I want to clear up, Bethesda didn't make this, Arcane Studios did. Bethesda published it, and while it's always a little ambiguous as to exactly how much sway a publisher holds over a developer, there's just two things I want to mention about this before I hop into this first look. A publisher is... It depends on any publisher, it depends on the developer, right? Usually the smaller the developer, the bigger the publisher, the more impact they're going to hold over, the more sway they're going to have. You know, they can set the parameters, they want this, this, this. It may be up to the developer as to how they're going to meet those guidelines, but you know, they need to meet these certain criteria or by certain timelines or with these certain amount of resources, etc. One of the big reasons why Kickstarter, if you guys have seen that website, is such a big deal is that people are, number one, it's incredibly successful website, which is awesome, but two, people are pledging money and funding projects, so the buyer is the one who's financing the development of the game, which means you're basically putting your faith into the hands of the devs to, well, you're giving them creative free will, which is awesome. I mean, you're letting them design the game that they want to, free of restrictions and limitations. It means if they want to make something, you know, violent or sexy or put a particular view in, or these types of quests, or this type of storyline, they can do whatever the hell it is they want to do. They can do anything. This is the same reason why, you know, say bands don't want to sign with major record labels because they don't want to be picked apart. They don't want to be, you know, commercialized per se. So this is, anyway, Kickstarter is awesome. Totally other subject, but kind of go off on a tangent there. So, Dishonored. Okay, first of all, I think that the first thing that hops off to me about this game is that it's very, very smooth, especially for a PC title. Most of the games that are coming out for multiple platforms are, typically when you play them on PC, they just don't perform well. They have, you know, frame drops, limited resolutions, you know, crashing, all sorts of issues with the mouse. None of this stuff happens with Dishonored. You open it up, you look at it, it looks very professional, looks very well done, it plays very smooth, great frame rates. I think it looks nice. It could look much better if it wasn't on consoles as well, but the first thing that stands out is that it's very smooth and looks like a polished PC product. So if you have any doubts as to why not get it for the PC versus Xbox, highly recommend getting it for the PC. Great title for the PC. The combat is, you know, I think I actually had somebody on Twitter, I wish I could remember their name, I apologize. The combat is what, you know, we wish we could have had in Skyrim. The combat is, you know, more engaging. You have those, you know, stealth / instant kill moves. You pick up some really cool powers. You can experiment with those. Those are a lot of fun. It's more engaged. Well, I want to say it's more engaged. On some level, I mean, it's more engaged than, say, the very black and white, just run up and hit somebody in Skyrim. There's actually a little bit of parrying going on. It's not to the level of Dark Souls. It's somewhere in between, say, well, it's definitely not anywhere near Dark Souls, and it's definitely not anywhere near Skyrim. It's somewhere in the middle there. The game, I think the closest game that reminds me of, that gives a feel of a similar combat and even a similar game would probably be Fable. You know, it's that kind of, it's a very polished product, and that it has that type of feel to it. You know, the world, they give you choices, but at the same time it's very scripted. I have heard people say that they have beat the game in a very short amount of time, and I think I'm about maybe 6 or 7 hours in at this point. I don't know exactly how far yet I have to go, but I haven't beaten the game yet. It looks like one of the cues that they did take from Bethesda was, not really a huge fan of this, was hiding stuff all over the world. So they really want to encourage you to go out and explore and find all sorts of goodies in every single nook and cranny. I'm not a big fan of throwing little coins and things like that in every single fucking nook and cranny. I like the idea of running across puzzles and solving those for loot. I like the idea of having some hidden secrets out there, but, you know, the levels that I've beat, the stages that I've cleared, you know, I get to the end of them and I feel like I've been very thorough. And granted, I mean, you know, when he was watching my videos before, you know that I tend to be, you know, I'm definitely not focused on, I get lost in the combat or whatever it is, and, you know, I may not check every single corner, but I feel like I'm being very thorough, and I'll still miss like 1,000 coins or something at the end. So The first couple shelves you check is definitely reminiscent of a Bethesda game where they put in like tons and tons and tons of garbage, and then you find these little, you know, hidden gems amongst all the rubble. That's not necessarily the case here. They don't have tons and tons of crap, but they do have small little gems hidden all over the place, and to find them you really have to scour and look. And the reason why I'm not necessarily a big fan of this is because I feel like it ends up detracting from the actual game itself. I think it's a bit of a pitfall that actually BioShock fell into, where depending on how you play the game, because they had that you know, limited ammo and scarce resources, which I think is awesome, I think it's great, but because, you know, the levels opened up and you could go in all sorts of different directions, oftentimes it felt like, you know, the emphasis on the game became less about progressing through the level in combat and story and became more about scrounging up for loot. And to a point that's great, because in certain games it has worked out very well, I think like the Resident Evil series, but I think one of the reasons why it works out well is because it, you know, it has those key puzzles, and, you know, there aren't little knickknacks that are hidden all over the place. You're not running around checking every corner, hitting E, sifting through a bunch of crap like you had to do in Skyrim or some of the earlier games, Oblivion. So it's not as bad as it is in Skyrim or Oblivion, but it is still there. The one detractor I think about combat I have is that you guys probably have noticed if you watch the videos, the enemy swords seem to have this incredible length to them, and it's much farther, much longer than what their blades appear to be. I basically have given up trying to dodge their blades because it seems you can on a rare occasion, but I think it's much safer to just end up blocking them. You feel like you're at a very, very safe range to dodge, but the blades end up hitting you either way, and your own blade doesn't do the same thing, so it's really strange. I don't know if it's a bug or something, if it's a glitch, they didn't mean to put it in there, but their blades seem to hit you from, you know, easily twice, maybe even 3 times the distance where you feel the blade should be able to hit you at. But I think it's ultimately a minor annoyance, especially if you're able to block. The story is somewhat, well, I'm trying how to classify the story. The story isn't great, the story's not bad, it's good. It's hard to talk about the story without giving away too much. I guess it's a little bit random. It feels somewhat, I don't want to say cliche, but it reminds me a bit of Lost, where they just sort of have these characters popping out of nowhere. Perhaps they're explained more later on in the game. This is just a first look, not a review. So maybe some of these key figures in the story are explained later on. But as of right now, things aren't necessarily making a whole lot of sense. Maybe they pop in and, you know, make sense later. But as of right now, they really don't. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of just bringing in certain elements in order to push a story along. I like to have them make sense and have their place, and, you know, characters have tangible, realistic motives for doing what they do, and same with the antagonists as well. So we'll see if that happens. Otherwise, I mentioned the graphics. You know, like I said, it looks good. Could look better if it was a PC-only game. You know, sound is fine. It has a lot of different options for combat. A lot of cool things like bone charms, like basically these passive effects you can use to modify your character. You can pick out skills, modify yourself with active skills and abilities as you level up. You know, whether it's more health, whether it's extra abilities to use, whether it's modifying abilities you already have, such as, say, like running, jumping, things like that. So overall, I think the game, so far I'm having a lot of fun with it. It is a little expensive, especially on PC. I think it's $60 as opposed to the usual $50. I mean, so far, I would say that I would recommend this game to anybody looking for a fun time. I don't know how long this game lasts. Like I said, I'm about 7 hours into it, and I mean, I'll tweet out, write a message when I'm done with it, see how long it took me. I know people beat Skyrim in something like an hour and a half. That was possible. People also beat Skyrim in like 100 hours. So, I don't know. I think it really depends on the mode that you play. You can play very stealthy, or you can play very aggressive. I think oftentimes playing stealthy means probably a faster playthrough, because you're basically just skating past everyone. So, it might depend on your playthrough too. Anyway, as always, comments, criticism, critiques, and let me know what you guys think.